I haven't had a personnel and appointment meeting. As a matter of fact, I've been waiting for all of this to come to fruition because basically when I talked to you before, we talked in collaboration about the commission and all of that being in conjunction with the personnel and appointment because it does deal with personnel and all of that. So I will be looking at having in conjunction with what takes place with the commission, the personnel and appointment, and give a report as we go along.
Thank you. Councilwoman Graham.
No report.
Council Vice President King.
No report.
All right. Proclamation. Albright. Lumpkin.
Thank you. I'll just summarize it for the most part. This is Coriba Lumpkin. She was 91. Okay, I'll just say that she was born on September 5th, 1924. She hailed from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and lived until the golden age of 94. And Coriba Lumpkin met and married her husband, Hezekiah Lumpkin, in 1949, and later moved to the city of East Cleveland in 1969. She resided in East Cleveland for over 65 years. Coriba Lumpkin was a devoted mother, grandmother, and homemaker. She raised 5 children of her own and nurtured a host of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Coriba served as a deaconess at Emmanuel Baptist Church at 7901 Quincy, where she also mentored young women and served the Lord. She was an inspiration to many she touched throughout her service in the church and beyond. Coriba Lumpkin also served her community as a street club member at Wymore in East Cleveland. Her life work extended beyond that of her blood relations, and all of the family members would cherish her spirit and keep Coriba Q. Lumpkin in their hearts. On behalf of Gary Norton Jr. and the entire City Council in the City of Cleveland, we recognize the life of Coriba Q. Lumpkin and the contribution to her family, our city, and community. We do hereby express our deepest appreciation and extend it to her family and sincere sympathy upon her. Signed by Wheeler, Martin, Graham, King, and Thomas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
For clarity, is it Coriba Q?
Q. Right. Q Lumpkin.
Is she 91 or 94?
91 according to this. Okay. I was told.
You said 94.
I said 91. And if I said 94, I meant 91. Okay. 91. 91.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Now the legislation.
Okay, resolution 1916, this is the second reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the lease with the Christ International Ministries Incorporated Religious and Benevolent Organization located at 16100 Euclid Avenue, East Cleveland, Ohio, 44112, for a 5-year term beginning on September 1st, 2015.
Councilwoman Graham, that's the resolution bearing the name. It's your pleasure.
I move that we pass resolution 1916.
Move second.
I second it.
Move second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like for the sponsor to articulate to the public what the amendment, what the changes in this legislation.
The basic amendment is that the original lease is for the amount of $2,000 per month due to the fact that this individual came in, poured a lot of money into a city building, which is still a city building, over $30,000, at least $30,000 worth of renovations. It's now occupied. He would like to have his monthly amount reduced for 6 months to $1,000 instead of $2,000, so that he's still able to operate. And you know, he had an original budget of $10,000. He went over it about at least $20,000. So, in the best interest of maintaining him in the city building, which otherwise would be vacant and possibly torn to shreds, we're conceding to give him $1,000 off for 6 months. That's the only change in the lease.
Councilwoman Thomas.
I have stated my opposition to this amendment before, and I had a long talk with Pastor Crew. Matter of fact, I had a long talk with Pastor Crew last week, and he understands why I'm in opposition to changing a lease agreement. Number one, I don't think I'll go all the way back or call anybody not representing correctly. But I will say this. Pastor Prue came from the church over on Hayden. He shared the church with another congregation and another minister. Pastor Prue wanted his own church and to build a congregation of his own, which was fine. He came before us and told us what he wanted to do, that he wanted to deal with Helen S. Brown, he wanted to renovate Helen S. Brown, and he knew what he wanted to do in the church. At that particular time, nobody was asking what else was to be done. Later on, it was found, and I won't go through a whole litany of whatever, but when you have a contractor come into an area and give you an estimate on what it would cost you, being that it was the city's property, there was no inspection of this church at all. There were no permits pulled at all. At the time, we were under the assumption that all this had been done. But when Pastor Crew came and said that he went over his amount that he had planned to spend, which I'm assuming from all of us here, was $10,000. He said he went $30,000 over. At that point in time, Council Thomas, which is me, asked Pastor Prue, I see no documentation of your permits. I see no documentation of how much you have spent. Now, to make a long story short, there was no permits. There was no documentation until afterwards. There was no pulling of permits until afterwards. I'm not about refusing to give anybody leeway to come into the city and create your livelihood for your parishioners or anything of that nature. Our job up here is to look, make sure that everything is, the policies and procedures have been followed. And when I asked, I'll go back, and when I asked Mr. Leach, he who is over community development, I asked Salandra Wallace, who is in community development. I asked the law director about this. They all acknowledged that no permits had been pulled, no inspection was done. And to go on with this and say to the few that's here, it sounds kind of off-center when I say I am in opposition. But somebody could have got hurt up there in that facility. Once you did it, it had to be already gone over and redone. And after the fact, the permits were pulled, everything was straightened out, but this is after the fact. We had no inspections, and if you'll remember years ago, there was no inspection up at the Lake Park Towers. Hadn't been no inspection. The place caught a fire. And it was horrendous. People were put out and all in disarray. I had to go with them to be in another part of the city, Cleveland, because of no inspection. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not sitting up here whistling Dixie or talking off the top of my head. I'm looking at the president because I talked to the president the moment I went down and talked to community development. And his words to me was, thank you, Council Thomas, we would never have known that there was no permits pulled, no inspection done unless you had come over here, come up here and told. Now this was in our office and all of this had taken place. And to make it even more simpler, I got the information, the receipts, the balance of the receipts on the 22nd from my clerk, because I had her to stamp, and the rest of the information from the contractors that had done business. That is why I am in opposition. I talked to Pastor Prue, I talked to the First Lady, we had a productive meeting, and he understood my opposition. He said he was not aware, he did not understand about all of this that took place. But it is our responsibility as the city to make sure that everything is inspected. All the violations should have been handed to Pastor Prue so he would have known how to prioritize and what to fix first, and he wouldn't have had to go into all the debt that he went into. And I'm saying, you know, if it weren't for that. And now, all of this is in the 5-year action plan. The 5-year action plan puts it into play. If you take that money, or even if you take any amount of money, you're going to have to cut at the end of the year, which we'll have to do anyway. But you're going to have to cut that amount of money, and if you had done Mr. Fambro's $20,000, you would have had to cut that. I am through. Thank you.
I'd like to comment. I think that I'd like to commend you on doing a very good job of researching and finding what Pastor Prude and Helena's Brown Center needs to do. And I can understand your initial opposition towards it. However, after everything's been remedied, i.e. the permits, i.e. the receipts, I'm dumbfounded as to why you still are in opposition, but that is your place and that you certainly have the right to that. But just like you said, $2,000 per month, so that's basically a $6,000 loss that we're taking. But we're talking about Fambro and other things. We just had 2 recalls in less than 6 months, which cost the city $30,000. That's going to be taken off the top.
You didn't have to
So
have that.
my thing is that if we're going to talk, yes, thank you, Council President. So this is minuscule compared to what the city has already, some residents in the city have already caused. So at this point, I can understand your initial opposition, but I don't understand your current opposition if everything's
No one has to understand my reason.
All
right.
What I'm trying to say now, with all the things that you've said, I want the public to be reassured that everything has been remedied, all his permits, all the receipts, so everything's in like it should. So even though that was the initial situation, by the way, he was in 2015 prior to me getting sworn in. So all of those issues should have been handled at the top before I believe you became president, if it is a council that's supposed to adhere to those things. So that wasn't under my watch, nor was it under Councilman Wheeler's watch. But everything's been remedied to this point, so I don't want the public to think any different.
Thank you.
And I'm still saying that I have a right to
Barbara.
express.
Barbara.
You wouldn't say nothing. No way opening your mouth now.
Councilwoman Thomas, can you
Yeah.
have some order, please?
Yes, you can.
King, Vice President King.
Just, thank you, Council President, just for the sake of clarity. There is insurance on the facility, and the church does have insurance, which has us as a writer, so there was no liability to the city. The lease was signed at a point where it is not actually in the action plan. It's not in the action plan. I would like to commend the new chair of General Services, Joey Graham, for her detailed look into this and visiting the facility, walking through the facility, making sure everything was right, and now we have this thing at a second read, and it's the right thing. So, thank you.
I'm gonna say this is closing, we're going for the vote.
After you say, I have something to say about this.
This is closing, we're going for the vote.
No, I have a right to speak on it.
You already spoke on this.
No, I
Then do
did
it
not.
twice.
Not on this.
You're on my time right now, let me talk.
Okay, but don't tell me I can't talk. Okay?
I gotta make sure, if you didn't speak
I
on
didn't
this,
speak on this.
Yo, come on now.
No.
So-
Go ahead.
my thing is, you put the man through hoops and all kinds of powers he had to get over to do this. I mean, he asked for the, when we found out, you found out, Barbara, about the issues about the permits, he went and got the permits put, and closed out the proper way after
I
that.
don't have no problem.
He wanted to see receipts, he got receipts. He did everything that you asked him to do, and then he still turned around and said, I can't support it.
I can't.
That hurts business. Because nobody's perfect, and we do make some mistakes along the way. But we gotta come back to correct it. As long as we come back to correct those mistakes, then you welcome them.
I.e. article.
That's all I'm trying to say, you welcome them. Okay, if you got a couple minutes.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I'm going to say this. I struggle with this. I'm voting in favor. Okay, I'm voting in favor. He stepped out, and wherever the breakdown, there was a breakdown, so we'll be fair. But I looked at the thing objectively, and I looked at the thing spiritually. So I spoke with Prue, and I've been to church a couple of times. And basically I said, look, I know what you're trying to do is helping us. So, do I have your word? You can stay in that after these 6 months, you're going to go back to what you're supposed to do. He told me what I said that I can live with that. 6 months is not going to kill us. So sometime in this governmental process, it's about compromise. When we're dealing with people, we have to compromise. So in this situation, he seemed like a decent guy. He's done some great things over there. Process was not followed. We're not going to worry about that now. It's passé. So I'm in support of it, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Okay, Counselor Martin?
Yay.
Counselor Thomas?
Nay.
Counselor Graham?
Yay.
Council Vice President King?
Abstain.
And Council President Lee.
Yeah.
Resolution 1916 has passed. Resolution 2016, a resolution authorizing the mayor to sell 2 inoperable surplus public service department vehicles through competitive bidding to individuals and dealers and for the public welfare and safety. Requested by the service department and sponsored by President Thomas J.
That's it for the first read on that.
Where, was this in a committee or where was it? We haven't discussed it in a committee, but you're gonna bring it up on first reading?
To be fair, and I know Barbara has the floor, and I discussed this with you in the office of a few hours.
Technically, we're supposed to have a motion for discussion because it's way that it's not.
Okay, well, can we move to have brief discussion on it, because we're not going to solve it tonight. I move that we have brief discussion on
We could.
I second it.
2016.
I second it.
Okay, all right?
Okay.
No. What I said to you, Council President, you can confirm, is that too much is not going through committee. Okay, we're basically in the summer, we got a lot of flexibility in the summer. We're not meeting twice a month like we do. We don't meet twice a month in July, we don't meet twice a month in August. And I stated, from a standpoint of wisdom, the fair thing is that this stuff goes to the committee. This stuff should go through the committee so it can be tweaked, all of it. So I don't want to be redundant and have to say it again, but when I got the stuff early today, I went through, spent an hour looking through it, reading all of it real comprehensively. And I made notes about why come this has not gone through committee. Okay, then we did first read, and once it goes through committee, it cuts down on a whole lot of dialogue. If it goes through, that's how the process is supposed to work. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. So that's all I'm saying. Not to make any negative, but this stuff should go through committee. I had questions about advertisement and all that kind of stuff. All that can be worked out in committee, and then we can move on it. We don't have to discuss it here. Okay? All right.
Mr. Chair, I don't understand, and maybe I'm seeming difficult, but I don't understand why it is so difficult for us to follow procedures. The first thing you said to us back when, is I'm gonna make sure that we follow policy and procedures. It started out with the residents, they didn't follow procedure, we had to have police in here, which they were already gonna come in, to deal with belligerent or disruptive residents. And that's because it's following policy and procedure. But when it comes down to a simple thing, like having your resolution in committee, discuss it, and approve it, and send it on down the way, it seems to be difficult. And this is not a process of putting things on a first reading, then go to a second reading and approve it and say it's over and done with. You know, if you come here for the council meeting, there's things that we have to discuss. We might be here a while. It's hot in the summer, and I don't like being here for a while, but this is my job. And my job, regardless of what people think or how people feel, I'm going to continue to do my job. And my job is to make sure that we follow the rules and regulations. I haven't heard anybody say that it's wrong or anything of that nature. So I'm just saying, we need to start to follow the policy.
I have a comment. Just to ask a question, I can maybe ask the law director. Every resolution that comes through or ordinance that comes in as a first read, is it automatically have to be in committee?
Yeah.
I just want to know if that's a rule. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Resolution.
So we're going to be passing, you asked me another question. So we're going to be passing everything that we have not seen before on a first reading, and on second reading, it's done. Boom,
How's
bam,
it done in
bang.
second reading? We got voted on the second reading.
That's what I'm saying.
If it
You're
doesn't-
saying you're putting it on first.
If it doesn't answer your question in the second reading, don't vote for it.
That's right.
Right.
My suggestion
I'm not
is that,
suggesting.
my suggestion, Council President, is the smart thing would be is to have it in committee. Okay, that way you eliminate all
We
this.
just said we're going on summer break.
Yeah, but I recognize what she said, but we just not going to summer break. This has been going on for a little while. We get the first reading, we haven't had it in committee. It's your responsibility as the president to try to follow the process. Sometimes you can't follow the process. But to have, I heard what she said, but the fair thing to be to have to discuss in committee. I mean, is it that difficult?
Yes.
Is it difficult?
Okay.
I need to clear.
To just share with the body. Mr. President, council always has the option of putting something in committee. There is no process that says something must go to committee. There's no process that even says it should go to committee. There's a committee structure. Council operates by the rules of council and parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. Council acts as a body, speaks as a body. In order to put something in committee, there must be a motion made by a member of council, a motion seconded by a member of council, and a vote of the body. To put that responsibility for a process that doesn't exist, there is no process that exists to require things or even suggest things that go to committee. It is at council's discretion with each and every piece of legislation to treat it the way that council as a body desires. Mr. President, just really as a former council president myself, there are a lot of rules that do exist, and then there are some rules that people think exist, but they really don't. This is a set of rules. There is no process that requires or even suggests that things like this go to committee. Again, it's up to council or council is.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
with all with his expertise and his being a president at one time, I have to respect all of that. But if you follow past practice, I don't care what it is, you go through committee and you deal with it and you speak about it. Yes, I can say, let's put it in committee. But if you don't have the votes, you don't do it. And so I'm not going to do it because I know I don't have the votes to put it in committee. All we had to do was say, okay, we've had discussion, let's deal with past practice. Past practice had to put your stuff in committee, we discuss it, and we go forward. And you know, it bothers me that when you ask the mayor a question that's pertinent for 17,000 people, he can't respond. He don't talk. But I mean, but that's it. But when it's talking about a small things, like putting something in a committee, he got all kinds of lucrative words that he can use because he was this and he was that, and he's done a piss poor job at being a mayor. And thank you. I'm through.
You know, one thing is I don't want to do is start making Sebastian thing with going at one another. Going at one another.
Oh, no, we're not.
Can you
I just spoke my opinion, and my opinion is my own. Everybody don't have to agree with me.
But I asked this.
Okay, I will. I do.
All right.
I agree with them. We should try to have some certain sense of decorum and respect for one another. While we're here, it's not a frat meeting, Councilman Martin.
Yeah, not only that, you know, considering how we look on the outside when, you know, council and the relationship with the mayor looks so yielded,
So,
you know.
It is.
so if I could just comment on this, I understand that it's not mandatory that it goes in the committee. And I would agree with you, Council President, that all legislation does not need to go into committee. I mean, some legislation is similar or same legislation as other legislation, so it doesn't actually need to go into the committee to discuss basically the same points of view. And I'll just give you an example as to why it doesn't necessarily need to go to a committee, but it could just go here, and then when it goes to agenda review, we can talk about it, and then when it comes back to a second read, we can talk about it again. I've heard a speech I just heard, it's about 6 minutes, regarding Helen S. Brown 4 times, right? So if it's in committee, you hear it once, right? Then it goes to agenda review, you hear it twice. Then it goes to first read, you hear it 3 times. Then it comes to second read, you hear it 4 times. So I understand what you're saying, and in theory, when you go to the committee meeting, you should discuss it. And then when we get here, you should vote on it. But I heard that Helen S. Brown speech 5 times.
Because there was
Right?
something to discuss.
But I
That was
keep
right.
hearing the same talking points that we did do in the committee. So why have the committee? Because we're gonna have it here anyway, Councilor Martin. So I say yes, follow procedure sometime, and other times we don't need to. I mean, here we're talking about land bank properties. So
I just want to make one more comment about it.
Then we're gonna move on.
We move on.